have been important for us to be there. It would have given the people of El Salvador an opportunity to rally around our slogans, which are not communistic, not very radical. Human rights isn't very radical in my view. The fact that the government didn't want us there says something about what the nature of that government is.
The country is one of the lowest in human rights in the world, and that is a country to which the United States gives over $500 million a year for its efforts to suppress its own people. Most people in our country don't even know about it. El Salvador is being bombed. I've personally visited bombed out cities. I've seen the results of these bombings, but it's not being reported in our own country.
It's something like the emperor's new clothes. We pretend that Duarte's government is a democratic government. We pretend that El Salvador is on the track toward democracy.
It is a hell on earth that is referred to by the President of the United States as a democracy. If this is his idea of democracy, we are in very serious trouble, and I think we are.
After our failed efforts to get into Honduras and El Salvador, we were determined to get into Guatemala. We flew from Managua, Nicaragua to Guatemala City, arriving on the eve of the inauguration of the first civilian president in over 30 years.
The president who's about to be inaugurated tomorrow had said that the March for Peace could come to Guatemala, but then the head of the military said no. And so as a march, we decided to lay low in Guatemala, to come not as a big group that would potentially get turned away as a group, but to come in small groups simply as tourists, to sort of quietly regroup here and move on up to Mexico. So we're all here quietly without any outward manifestations of being peace marchers, except that you can smell them a mile away anyway, if you ask me.
We were separated from a lot of our good friends for 2, 3, 4 days because some of us came earlier and they couldn't get on the plane. And this morning I see so many of them, and it just makes you feel absolutely wonderful. I never got hugged and kissed so many times in 2 hours as I did this morning.
Guatemala was a rich agricultural country, but over half of the land was held by 2% of the population, and 80% of the country's children lived just above starvation level. This poverty was set against a vigorous Western market and its promises of prosperity. However, in the past, demands for land reform or economic change had been met with violent repression, directed primarily against the Indian population. Union leaders, student organizers, and human rights workers were executed. Guatemala has one of the worst human rights records in the world, with over 50,000 people killed or disappeared in the last 10 years. However, in the last year and a half, one group had managed to survive. The GAM, or Mutual Support Group. These were the families of people who had been disappeared, picked up by the military or the death squads and never seen again. They had come together to search for their missing relatives, even though that put their lives in danger as well. The Peace March demonstrated with GAM on the eve of President Cerezo's inauguration to demand that the new civilian government honor its promises of reform and social justice and account for the disappeared. These people wanted their relatives back. Dead or alive, but they wanted them back. The new president of Guatemala would have a fine line to walk between reforms the people were demanding and the military's attempt to hold on to its power. His inauguration was only a first step toward solving the country's problems. But the people had demanded a change, a break with the past. And perhaps that was the most significant thing happening in Guatemala and all across Central America, as people came together and demanded their fundamental human rights. We knew the U.S. press had ignored the march, but when we arrived on the Mexican border, we found that the Mexicans and all of Latin America had been following our trip on the front pages of their papers, debating whether or not we'd make it through. So when we did, the people were there to meet us in full force, because like Panama, Mexico didn't want to be pulled into a war, and the Mexican people saw the effects of the Central American problem as thousands of refugees poured across their border.
Norteamericana, toda América Latina y el resto del mundo se levantará en defensa de Nicaragua, de El Salvador y de Centroamérica.
I was walking between two Mexican people, and he told me that he had come from Yucatan. And I said, "You mean that you came just for this demonstration?" He said, "Yes, you came much further."
Seeing the faces of many of the poor people who had educated themselves as to the political realities and were taking action, I came away with profound respect for these people and realized that we have a great deal to learn from them. They have not that much to learn from us. It really works the other way.
When we arrived in Mexico City, it was clear that the march had meaning for all of Latin America. People from every political party had come out. Trade unions, student organizations, religious groups, and refugee organizations were there to march with us.
It was a beautiful experience with people from different countries. I could see that the humankind is one. There is no difference. Even we speak different languages, we have different color of skin and so forth. But by that time we were one person, we were one family. And I made lots of friends there. And I remember that as the most important event in my life. Even the day I married was for me the most important, but now it is no longer important, it is the marriage.
Oh, it's huge. I can't even tell where the back of the line is. I tried to walk back there, and who knows how many are with us. Oh, yeah, we made it.
Get it's just wonderful to be at last in Mexico after 6 weeks and to see this enormous solidarity, not only of the Mexicans, but also the Latin Americans and the Central Americans, which are refugees here, and see so many countries represented. I think this is really has been an heroic event for all of Central America, and for each one of us has been an enormous lesson how we can struggle for peace, even risking our lives.
If we unite, we are much more stronger and perhaps could be able to achieve a little bit in a positive way.
I'm not going to be able to say that I changed this vote or caused that election or something like that, but I will be able to say that I was part of a good idea and we went out and we did it.
Till I go down, oh yeah, till I go down. I'm not gonna shut my eyes till I go down. Night, night, till I go down. Night, night, till I go down. I'm not gonna shut my eyes. I've already seen the lies on the faces of the men of war, leading people to the killing floor. Till I go down, till I go down, oh yeah, till I go down. I'm not gonna shut my eyes, oh no. Not, not till I go down. Not, not till I go down. Till I go down. Till the world stops spinning around. Till I'm 6 feet under the ground. Till there's no sound. Swing this tune till I go down. I'm not gonna shut my mouth. I'm for the truth to come out about the leader with the iron